By its own admission, America is losing the war on terror. The Central Intelligence Agency's director, John Brennan, has stated publicly that the US cannot defeat ISIL Takfiri militants in Syria and in Iraq militarily. It's a big statement. As recently as September 2014, US President Barack Obama announced an open-ended military air campaign to degrade and ultimately to destroy ISIL forces in Iraq and Syria with help from many allies. His plan has evidently failed. There have always been doubts about America's true motives in this campaign. Many believe the US's primary goal has been to prevent the Takfiris from attacking strategic assets of the United States, including the Iraqi capital Baghdad and the valuable oil fields in northern Iraq. Yet its strategy has been hugely counterproductive. For example, the CIA trained large numbers of militants in 2012 in Jordan to fight the Syrian government. However, a large proportion of these joined the ISIL terrorist group instead, underlining the belief that ISIL is essentially a creation of the CIA. Despite this, the US intends to train even more militants by April 2016, regardless of these lessons in recent history. How should the CIA be held accountable for helping to create terrorists? Is it irresponsible of Washington to start wars it cannot win? And is anyone doing a good job of fighting ISIL? These are the simple, if troubling, questions we sought to answer. Now, consider this. The head of the CIA himself says that the US cannot defeat ISIL militarily on the ground. What caused him, or maybe forced him, to reveal this? We asked the American public for their opinion.
Because, I don't know, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. You know, ISIS is a group that they picked up the USA toys. They picked up toys that we left, and they're using against us, okay? The president should be more involved, more with military. Ground, boots on the ground. Let's get them, they're children. They're children playing with toys. They don't have air support like we do.
The fact that he knows that they can't be stopped right now, they will have to do way more than what they will have to tell people what they don't know first for them to actually be stopped. But they just want their own land. That's really it.
The fact that this has been going on for quite some time, and no matter how hard you try to stop them, this has been going on for like the past couple years that ISIS has been being built underground. So now people hear about it and they get scared, but this has been going on.
It's the truth. It's a problem mostly for Sunnis, Shiites, Kurds, and Christians in that part of the world. America cannot police the world. We can't send in troops there. We sent troops to Afghanistan. Afghanistan's still a mess. Send troops to Iraq. Iraq's a mess. Libya's a mess.
Probably the economic situation that's going on right now over there. I know that the Middle East is, struggling with, difficulties in, providing fresh water for their people and stuff like that. So I guess they're taking advantage of, the soft political views of how the people are living.
I believe he probably has pressure from the United States of America, from President Obama. And he can't move. He's a puppet. And this is the situation where our hands are tied up.
Probably just universal pressure coming from the different countries involved, and maybe just out of desperation they have no other resources or solutions.
I start my prayer in the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. Whatever today going on for war, I don't like, because I come from India. I like peace. Whoever they're thinking this way, I don't, understand why they want to go over there, why they want to be destroyed, why they involved, first of all.
I think there has to be some kind of motive behind it, because as general public, we really don't know what happens behind the scene. It's politics, I believe that's what it is, yeah.
What would prompt the director of the CIA himself to admit America cannot destroy ISIL militarily? We asked our experts.
I basically think it's common sense nowadays, because last autumn ISIL nearly overtook Baghdad, and if they had done that, Iraq would have fallen. And if it wasn't for the Shia militia and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, Baghdad would not have been saved, there would be no Iraq today, Jordan would be at threat, Syria would be even more pressured than what it is, the Kurds probably wouldn't exist anymore in Iraq, and the pressure would be insurmountable compared to now.
Well, there are many reasons, and I think one of the reasons is that this is an excuse because it's been almost a year now since the US has launched their military airstrikes against ISIL, but these airstrikes were really intended to strengthen ISIL more than anything. And I think people are asking the question now, it's been a year and you've not really done anything to destroy ISIL, and the US has the most strongest military might in the whole of the world. So why have they not been capable of defeating ISIL? And the real issue is that they can defeat ISIL, but they don't want to. So they're using a very sorry excuse by saying it's just impossible to destroy them. But really, it is possible to destroy them. But their real intention is not to.
A former US Army Vice Chief of Staff has admitted the US is not only failing in its war against ISIL, it is losing that war. Is it irresponsible or even dangerous for Washington to start wars it cannot win? Here's the public's view.
Yeah, since day one, they started wars they could have never finished. They've been in wars all these years. We're still in a war right now. So, yeah.
If like they have other people in that country that want to take over. Okay, so help them. This is their country. Help them, help the fighters, help them, help themselves. You know? Okay, you don't want to put USA people there. Okay, so give them weapons, give the people from their country, and take over their country again.
I think we need a reset in terms of our thinking in terms of foreign policy. One, the biggest challenge to America in the 21st century is going to be China, not the Middle East. Big challenge, narco traffickers on our border in Mexico, not the Middle East. The Western powers created the mess in the Middle East, the British and the French particularly, going back to the 18th, 17th century. We can't fix it. It's not fixable by us, and it's a time for a rethinking about how countries' borders are drawn, and people in that part of the world have to figure out how they're going to redress this, not the United States. We should mind our own business.
I'm very against war to this point, just due to, I feel like every country should just be at peace already, especially in today's society, in today's world. I feel that knowing that we are such a successful country, that we should just, end war completely and just, like they say, we should all live in peace,
It's not irresponsible. There has to be some policing going around universal somewhere. Unfortunately, the U.S. steps up to the plate a lot to be that policeman, if you want to call it that. But something has to be done. We may not have the true solution, but at least there's a start. So I think I'm glad that they're doing something.
I think U.S., since it's a very big, country, it has the responsibility to protect the people, and it has the authorization. So, yeah. U.S. plays a big role in this.
I don't believe it's irresponsible. I believe that the U.S. should put their foot down and they should put pressure. And they're keeping their eyes closed. They're being blinded and they're walking into a big, big amount of trouble for themselves. And I believe the people, some of the people are very, very concerned, and some people are just not aware of what's going on.
If a war is dangerous or if it can't be won, then I don't think the United States should really get their hands inside of it. You should only pick the battles that you know that you can win.
Those are the views of the American public. We asked our experts if they believed America's willingness to start unwinnable wars was irresponsible.
It's dangerous. I mean, if you are a leader of an army in the general command like he is, he should know that you don't send your troops out, even if they're by air or by foot, by demoralizing them. You have to pick them up. You have to get them thinking that they are going to win this. They are going to come home with as many troops as possible. Otherwise, they are going to be easy prey once they are there. And it's going to make your national security at home even more at risk. So it's dangerous for him to do that, for both the troops that are there and for the United States homeland itself.
Well, of course, starting wars and what America has been doing in the region has been very dangerous. And in fact, it's their intention to cause as much destruction and danger in the Middle East and to try and destroy the the resistance in that particular region. So of course it's a dangerous and they're making things more volatile as before, but I think it's also their intention to do that. And although some are saying they're losing the fight against ISIL, this is just random talk. They are hand in hand with ISIL at the moment, and what they want to do is to trying to achieve their objectives in the Middle East. And what we know is that ISIL has prime objectives which are very similar to America's prime objectives in that region.
The CIA has not revealed how many ISIL militants it trained in Jordan in 2012 to battle the Syrian government. How should the CIA be held accountable for helping to create terrorists? We put that question to the public.
They should be held because that's what they do. That's their job. They brainwash people. That's it.
So the CIA, I mean, as a general, like, it has the authority to help, and work with people and give them that support. So I feel like they should.
That's a hard one. About how they should be held accountable for helping create terror. Well, listen, they train a lot of these individuals here domestically, and we kind of educate them on different things, different ideas, technologies, and so forth. And sometimes these are things are grass grown from the United States, unfortunately. So that's only way I can see the connection to the CIA to that type of problem. But it's hard to govern, it's hard to control. So I don't blame the CIA. I just feel as if it has to be more policing on if they educate or train someone, that they make sure that it's not being done for wrong purposes.
This goes back to the founding of the CIA, when we go in and overthrow countries to serve some vague interest. Shouldn't have gotten rid of Saddam Hussein. Bad guy, but secular bad guy. We shouldn't have organized efforts against Mubarak. We've gotten something worse there. Bad guy. So these are bad people, but American involvement or acquiescence in the overthrow of secular dictators leads to something far, far worse.
Due to our highly forced military and how freely we are open to having people from other countries come here so freely and trained, with the military basics. So I feel that we are completely 100% liable for, having them train as terrorists here in the United States.
With a clear admission by the CIA that it trained an undisclosed number of ISIL militants, we wondered if our experts had a view on how the CIA should be held accountable for its role in building this terrorist movement.
Ideally, the people who was involved would be arrested and taken to The Hague and charged with war crimes. In reality, I don't see it happening. Basically, the CIA is like a government within the government. They're untouchable. Even to the Congress and to the president, they can barely go hold of them. And when they have tried it before, bad things have happened. Some say it was JFK's persistence in going after the CIA which caused his downfall in the end. So I can see why no president would want to do that, but so in reality, I can't see nothing really happening to anyone, not even a paid vacation as they called it in America.
Well, it's very difficult to bring the CIA to account because it is immune from a lot of the international laws. It's above the law in some cases. And I think what we should be doing is try and expose their links with the ISIL terrorists. And as we know, they have provided training not only in Jordan but also in Turkey and elsewhere. How much training they've provided, how much they've been financing them and how much they've been providing arms is yet to be seen. And I think if we keep exposing that to the public, there'll be more of an outrage, there'll be more pressure against the CIA, but also it shows that the CIA and the ISIL go hand in hand with their prime objectives in Syria and elsewhere to try and topple the government and weaken the resistance.
Despite everything that's happened, the US wants to train another 5,000 militants in Syria by April 2016. Do you see any problems with this? That's what we asked the American public.
Trust. They're trust issues. Really? Really, we're gonna train them? Really? So we're gonna train them so they could backstab us again, right? So we do all this and then for nothing.
It's a waste of lives. That's a waste of money. That's a waste of everything. Like that could be going towards something that could benefit the earth rather than to kill people, rather than to get in somebody else's business. That's just the problem with America. They just always in somebody else's stuff.
War is not gonna stop. It's just gonna keep extending. And losing lives is not something that should happen. It should always be about helping another country that can't help itself when you have the power to help. So that's not the answer.
Well, Americans are fundamentally ignorant about what the difference is between Sunni and Shiites and Alawites. Assad never posed a threat to the United States. He may be an SOB, he may not be a good guy, but we favor the overthrow of him and replace him with what? You reap what you sow. The devil you know, as we say, is better than the devil you don't know. And every time we've meddled in the Middle East, we've created situations far, far worse. We've broken the cookie jar, and there's crumbs of cookies now all over the floor, and we can't go in there and sweep it up. We shouldn't be training anybody to do anything. Let the Saudis, the Turks, the Moroccans, the Egyptians figure out how to keep peace in their neighborhood. We have enough problems here in America.
Well, I mean, I don't know the full details behind the CIA training these unknown militants. I don't know what they're doing with that. But if they are dangerous and they aren't on our side when fighting this war, then I would be strongly against the CIA doing such a thing.
I say it's a complete disaster. I mean, knowing that we here in the United States are going to train over 5,000 military in another country, that's giving them potential to harm us and harm other countries as well. Why? Because our army is strong based. You know, we are very intelligent when it comes to the military. You know, so us training other people is kind of dangerous. Very dangerous.
I don't think that is the answer. I don't think that by training them that's going to help. Whether it's 5,000 or 100,000, I think they have to get on par to understanding, changing their way of thinking and being more realistic and not keep on putting more and more soldiers to be trained. I think it's a problem.
It's going to be an ongoing process, ongoing. It looks like the war we just finished, and it's going to just something that I think is going to be a long haul problematic process. And by us putting in more troops and more troops, we're going to get ourselves ingrained in it, knee deep. So I think we should try to just worry about us more domestically while giving support to those neighboring countries that's more so affected.
I think instead of this, they should focus more on educating and getting the word out there instead of, hiring more militants and, helping the public in general.
I feel that it's going to be worse. Why they have to train over there? I think it's easier to do it all in the States and find out what is the best thing to do for this kind of group.
So, varying views from the public. We asked our experts to speculate on the problems the US will create by training thousands more militants.
In any battle, the winners will always be those with the most arms, those with the most money, and those with the most willingness to use those two things. I don't see the FSA or anyone like them having that compared to ISIL. ISIL are just too organized at the moment, or they appear to be. They've got this religious hold over some people, and even more important, they've got the food control over people, like we're seeing in Al Yarmouk now in Damascus. They're starving Palestinians. The Palestinians are looking like Nazi concentration camp victims, and they're hoping to get control of them by giving them small amounts of food and saying, we'll give you this if you give us your loyalty.
Huge problems, and this will have huge consequences not only in the Middle East but also against America in the future, because this can be something which, like a Frankenstein monster, you may help it to grow, but it may attack you in the future. But I think it will have more consequences in the region, especially in the Middle East. There'll be more bloodshed, there'll be more fighting, and this is something we're going to be expecting to see in the future, in the next few decades as well. America is not going to stop their support of terrorists in that region. They're going to continue to finance them and continue to support them, and this is their main objective, because at the end of the day, the resistance movements in that region are the main groups who are in front of the US hegemony.
Putting all that together, we asked this: who, if anyone, is doing the best job of fighting ISIL? Here's what the public thought.
I don't know. Somebody needs to step up, because the USA is not doing it.
Nobody. I think ISIS is doing their thing right now. I think anybody helping them is probably the CIA, but I don't think nobody's really helped fighting them.
No one. They can't. You can't stop those guys. They have a certain belief, and when they conquer their belief, it's going to be really hard to stop them. And the U.S. is going to have a hard time trying to stop them. I don't think they can stop them.
I don't think anyone is doing a good job at fighting the ISL. I don't think anyone or any force or power really has the tools that are needed to fight them, and I think that this war is futile.
Right now it's the Peshmerga Kurds. Right now it's the Shiite militia from our, quote, enemy, Iran. And the best people to fight it are Sunni tribesmen who are going to lose whatever cachet they have against ISIL.
I say neither. I say Iceland and us, we need to stop this, stupidity and just finally be at peace and let's cooperate,
That's a tough answer. I think as a group, we all are. The United Nations, led by the U.S., and I think anybody that believes in human rights and universal respect and love for all cultures and creeds, that's who should be given the respect and the acclimates and that, for this fight.
We gave our experts a chance to share their view on who is being most effective against the ISIL terror group.
Well, in Iraq, the best fighters of ISIL would be the Shia militia, the Kurds, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. In Syria, it would be, to a lesser degree, the Kurds, then it would be the Hezbollah, and the Syrian forces, the National Defense Force and the Syrian Arab Army, which is largely a Sunni Muslim force, which goes contrary to the belief that this is a Sunni versus Shia conflict. It's not, it's an ideal of, a polluted ideal of Takfirism, which some say is Wahhabi or Salafi, going against the Sunni and the Shia Muslims and anyone else who stands against them.
The simple answer to that is Iran is doing the best job to defeat ISIL, along with the Syrian government, Hezbollah and other Iraqi resistance movements. These groups are doing their utmost to try and defeat and to counter the terrorists, ISIL and other terrorist groups. And, contrary to what people think, America says that ISIL cannot be defeated, but in actual fact, they can be defeated. And what we're seeing is that, with Iran and other resistance movements, ISIL can be destroyed and hopefully, God willing, will be destroyed.
A large proportion of the very people the US trained to fight the Syrian government are now members of the ISIL terrorist group. It is obvious to any impartial observer that ISIL itself is essentially a creation of the CIA. Yet despite this, America intends to train 5,000 more militants by April 2016. It's obvious that the US cannot defeat ISIL militarily, and doubtful it ever intended to. This is the time to hold Washington to account for creating a terrorist monster it will not, or perhaps cannot, destroy.